getting cultured in the ways of the French, they decided to return home to the Highlands. Now they threw a big party to celebrate their return, invited as many people as they could remember from their early days here in Scotland. And as the party drew to a close, the two boys went outside for a breath of fresh air and they were stabbed to death. They were murdered. Take that. Welcome home. Now, we don't really know why they were murdered. People have speculated that their cousins were making fun of them, doing French accents. Sorry, I know it's a bad French accent, that. And also, doing French mannerisms, making fun of them. And this escalated into a fight which saw the murder of the chieftain and his brother. Alternatively, it could have just been a family feud that they had kind of walked into unknowingly, and they were murdered as a result of some dispute they had no idea about. But whatever the facts may be, the two boys were now dead, and nobody was going to do anything about it. That is until the first Gaelic poet laureate in our history, Ian Long, who was also a member of the clan, decided to do something about it. Now he went all around Scotland trying to persuade the fellow MacDonald chieftains to help him in his quest for justice. So he was asking them all, will you help me get justice for the two murdered boys? And they were all like, no, we're not getting involved in any of that nonsense. So he ended up going all the way up to the Isle of Skye, and it was up there that he managed to persuade the MacDonald chieftain of Skye to help him in his quest for justice. So together they went down to Edinburgh and they asked the Privy Council and the judges for permission to get justice for the murders. And they got a letter, a legal document saying, we hereby give you permission to kill the men responsible. So when I say it's justice, it's Highland justice. A dish best served cold, just revenge. So now they needed to find some men to do the work of the justice, of the vengeance. So just so happened Edinburgh was filled with the worst kind of people. Mercenaries, people that will kill for money. So they eventually recruited around 50 men and sent them up into the Highlands of Scotland to find these murderous men. Now they were fairly certain they were in the area of Roy Bridge, which would be passing through relatively soon. And the 50 men went up there, scoured the whole Highlands for them. Eventually they found the men, all 7 of them, funnily enough. And they wasted no time at all in stabbing them to death and then cutting off their heads. Now, the reason they cut off their heads again was that they could prove that they had killed the right guys. They hadn't just killed anybody and said, yeah, job done, where's our money? So they had to prove it by chopping their heads off and presenting these. That's how things were done, because we're a civilised nation, remember? Now, in order to keep it civilised, you can't just present a severed head covered in blood. No, that's not cool. That's not allowed. What you must do, of course, is take your severed head to the nearest water source and wash it in the water, and then, of course, because you're civilised, then you present the severed head. So back there, at the banks of Loch Oy, is the Well of the Seven Heads, where the heads were washed by Ian Long and the mercenaries before being presented to the Edinburgh Privy Council and judges. So there you go. Only in Scotland would you have such a crazy remedy for justice, or revenge, really, wouldn't you? Now, the heads did go down to Edinburgh from the Highlands, so by that time they were getting a bit rotten and smelly, and the judges, anxious to show that Highland justice is a thing, they sent them all around Scotland so everybody could see that no matter who you are or where you are, justice always prevails. So imagine that, you're at the grocery store doing your food shopping, and there's 7 severed heads just in front of you to remind you to be good. I think that only works in Scotland, because I've never heard of it anywhere else. So there you go, the Well of the Seven Heads. Only in Scotland. And I think, just maybe, could be wrong, but I think that's pretty much the last story I've got about heads getting chopped off, so you'll be glad to know. See if there's any others, but I think that's the last one.